Everybody, welcome back to the Everyday Man channel again. We are here to start working on the decking for this Old Playhouse Part 2. Before we get going, there's a couple things that are going to make your life a lot easier because you're going to have to be doing a lot of cutting, a lot of making sure things are level and square. Miter saw, going to be your absolute friend. If you don't have one, use a circular saw. If you don't have one, use a hand saw. You don't want to saw by hand all day? Do you have a Sawzall? I don't know. If not, it's going to suck pretty bad, but it's still doable without power tools. It's going to be your best friend. Your second best friend is going to be your drill or your impact gun. I like an impact gun because it takes a lot of the need for pre-drilling out of the way for you. Obviously, your fasteners, tape measure, a couple of speed squares. I have a couple different sizes of levels. And then every time I do anything, I bring out a framing square. I never use it, but I feel better about myself that I do have it. A couple things we have over here is you're going to need a hammer for your joist hangers. It's probably going to be a little overkill for the platform we're building for this playhouse. We're going to build it just like a deck. We're going to use joist hangers, and then we're going to use the hot dip galvanized nails that are the fasteners for the joist hangers. We're not even going to be a foot off the ground, but the kids are playing in it. I don't want to take any chances. It's also the same reason I'm doing them 1 foot on center instead of 16s. Just, can't be too safe when you're messing with your where your kids are going to be playing. And I also picked up these things. They're like 60 cents. They're a little right angle pieces. I'm going to use those to attach some of my studs that are going to be going up to frame out the doorway and frame out the window. So measured my post length where I'm going to be putting on my rim joists, and I didn't do too bad. 72.5 inches. I wanted to be 72 inches. So where I come from, that is perfect in an extreme wind. So I'm going to cut my rim joists down to that size. We'll get those mounted up. Okay, so when you're starting to set your rim joists, it's obviously not going to be perfectly level. If it was perfectly level, we'd have just built something not on posts and right on the ground. So what I do to find my level is I want this side to be as low as possible, because the way my grade works is it's running downhill this way, and it also slopes down that way. So we're going to get this one set first. I just put one screw in right here so I can move the board around. And then you grab your 4 foot level, and this is where it's going to be helpful to have a second set of hands. And lift it there. So you get dead right between the bubbles, and then just grab your impact gun, 2.5 inch screw, drive it in. So the tricky part is then getting everything to run around to make sure you get your backside level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure post to post, which is 60 inches. So we're going to cut a 2x6, 63 inches, because we're going to cap our front and rear rim joist. So 1.5 inch thickness, we got 60, add 1.5 inch, 63. So we can mount that up here to make sure we're flush with this corner, bring it back, make sure we're level. That's going to help us set that back corner. All right, guys, so we have our side pieces cut. And if you're like me, your hand holders are not going to be the most reliable help in the world. Get yourself a nice speed clamp. It's going to be your friend. It can serve as that extra set of hands you need and not tell you you're doing it wrong. So sometimes it works out a little bit better. But I have my corner here leveled up. Use my little level to make sure as I'm coming across there that we're level. Is this the 100% correct, accurate way to do it? Probably not. In a real world, if I wasn't cheap, I would have went and bought a 6 foot level and started with this other side here and ran a 6 foot level across, since we're only 5 feet, and just worked end to end that way. But we didn't do that. I am a cheap person, so we're doing it this way. Will it turn out right? Probably. Will it take more than one shot to make it right? Maybe. But you know what? We'll find out together. So same as we did before. Might be a little bit harder though, because we do have this clamped down. We don't want it to move. We're still getting our 4 foot level on here. Hopefully yours has a nice bubble on the top to peak. It does make everything a heck of a lot easier that way. Alright, get it where you need it, and then just go ahead and clamp it down. Ideally, you wouldn't knock your level down, so you could make sure you stayed level as you clamped, but before you fasten that in there anyways, you're going to make sure it's level anyway. Alright guys, for these corners on these 2x6s, I don't know why, for whatever reason, I've decided to switch them to 3-inch screws. That's why it was hard for me to give you a absolute build sheet at the beginning, because I fly by the seat of my pants a lot and change my mind a good bit. So I'll try to keep good notes on all this so you guys have an exact sheet at the very end of this of what all I used. But I had some old 3-inch deck screws laying around from when I built my fence last year. I don't know why. Just feel like these are better for the corner, so here we go. So we're going to do the same method we did coming down the side with our rim joist coming across the back. One step we're going to do differently is once I have it leveled and clamped, I'll put in one screw. And I'm going to bring a 2x4 and I'm going to lay it across and make sure that we are level front to back before we fasten everything down and put on our last side rim joist. Okay, so as you can see right now, we have 3 sides of our rim joist up. I just put the back up. I have it still clamped in place with one screw just holding it in place. I'm going to bring a 2x4 in here, just spot check it a couple times. So I'm pretty much in the center and I'm dead level, which makes me happy. We're dead level there too. Happy, happy. Like I said before, not sure that it's the 100% accurate way to do it, but it's what I've done before. It's what works for me. If you know a better way, let me know. I'd like to know a better way. But this way works. If you got a different way, go ahead and do it. Biggest thing you want to make sure is that you're square around and you're going to have a level surface. Right, as you can see, we have all of our rim joists up. One thing I like to do before I get too excited is make sure we're level as best I can tell. We already tested front to back with the 8-foot piece and the level. I just like to move it around here on the angles as best I can. Just check that all of our lumber is as level as we can. Okay there guys, before you go to start laying out your joists, one thing you're going to want to do is I'm putting mine every foot, so they're going to be a foot on center. So I come here where this would be my foot line, and I go over 3/4 of an inch to either side of that line, because your standard 2x4 lumber is 1.5 inches thick, even though it's called a 2x whatever. Okay, so to do our joist hangers here on our 2x6s, the 2x6 hanger also is for a 2x4, so just when we're using it for a 2x6, you want to make sure it is oriented down to the bottom. And they're going to be fanned out because of the way they're packaged in the box. Just go ahead and squeeze those a little tight so they line up close to your line. Doesn't need to be 100% exact. And then they have these fins here that you can nail into place so it holds it in place for you. So once you have your joist hanger in place, just making sure that the bottom of the hanger is flush with it. I just have a scrap piece just to make sure I'm right. You'll do that once or twice until you get the hang of it, and then you'll plow through it. I've also seen people come in here at this point, cut their joists, toe screw their joists into place, and then come behind from the bottom and wrap the hangers around it. You can do it whichever way you feel is best and more efficient for you. I've only ever done it this way, so I just stick with what I know. Okay, now that you have all your hangers in, simply just measure your 2x6s, or if you're using 2x8s or anything different, measure them individually for each joist just to make sure. I measured all of mine. Mine are all pretty accurate, even though I feel like this is off square a little bit based on how I have that separation there. I think my back post is twisted in the hole, and I mean, nothing I'm going to do about it now. Would I have loved to have noticed that earlier, or when I was mounting the posts? Yeah, definitely, I would have, but a little late now. Just work with what you got. Be a little bit out of square, but nothing that I can't live with. Like I said, non-professional, just a do-it-yourselfer. Once you have all your joists cut and in place, it's as simple as 2 nails on each side. Kind of toenails them in place so they can't move. These ones go in much faster. All right, everybody, so all of our joists are all nailed in place. Brought my decking boards over. I just brought them over in full 8-foot sections, except for the very front and the very back one. I most definitely cheated. I am not boxing them around the posts. I just cut them to the inside dimensions of the post because it's all getting sided on the side. If it was a deck, I would have got the jigsaw out, cut around it, made it look pretty. Maybe, maybe not. Probably. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to screw them all in place. Good thing to use as a spacer is just a speed square. So when you get your first one screwed in, you can just kind of lay that down in between, and it gives you pretty good spacing. I'm not too concerned on getting decent spaces in here. The spaces between the boards normally are just letting that rainwater through. We're eventually going to have walls and a bit of a roof. Will it be 100% watertight? I doubt it. It's just going to be corrugated plastic panels, but it's still going to be more watertight than nothing. We are going to have an open doorway, so at least on the first few, we definitely want to make sure we leave that opening there so we get the rain to drip through. So start screwing them down. Use a good 1.5 inch, 1 5/8 exterior screw. It's going to be your best bet. We have 5/4 decking, so really you just want to make sure you're getting in that wood about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Okay guys, I got my decking boards all screwed down. I have a brace in place here just as a guide for my circular saw. Just going to come behind it here and just cut all the ends off. Alright guys, that's all I got for you today in this Old Playhouse Part 2. We did come across a little bit of an issue from Part 1. Our post here, it's a little bit out of square. It's a little bit closer to me, and it's actually a little bit twisted. So that's why a couple of my seams here on the rim joists are a little bit off. It's only about 3/4 of an inch, but 3/4 of an inch goes a long way, am I right? But anyway, if you wanted a professional job, you should have hired a professional. You should have took your Uncle Don's fund money and fired up the old credit card or warmed up the checkbook and got it done. But this is what you get when you're doing it yourself. If you can't live with a couple imperfections, then definitely don't try to do it yourself. And let that be a lesson for life too. Little philosophical for you. Let that sink in. It's deep, huh? Anyway, but can't wait for next week so I can get some sides on this thing so it looks a little bit more like a playhouse, because my kids are already trying to perform shows on it. So I'm going to have to sit back there on my deck all week when I get home from work until I have time to put sides on this thing and pretend to be extremely interested in their concerts or cheerleading performances or whatever it is they're going to make me watch all week. So hopefully it's another crappy week and there's a lot of rain and we'll get a nice day, put some sides up for this Old Playhouse Part 3. It'll really start coming together. And we'll see you then. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you next time for Part 3.